You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Trump unveils a new scheme to seize more power, based on an article by Sarah K. Burris. Trump wants to disappear people without deporting them. Census's Erasure. The reporting points to a simple move dressed up in bureaucratic language. The Trump administration has quietly filed a rule change that critics fear would recategorize millions of immigrants, including legal residents, as if they do not really live here. That matters because the census is not a trivia exercise. It is how the state counts people for funding, representation, and political power. This is not confusion. It is a second pass at the same project. First remove people, then remove the record that they were ever there. Who holds the knife? The power sits where it always sits in this story. At the top of the executive branch, inside Trump's White House and the Department of Homeland Security, with Stephen Miller pushing the operational tempo. The source says Miller set a goal of at least 3,000 immigration arrests per day and that DHS has already been holding people in cells after they are snatched by immigration agents. When deportation fails to reach the fantasy quota, the administration is now reaching for accounting tricks. That is the core fact pattern. The state is not merely policing immigration. It is using enforcement, detention, and data rules as a single machine for social disappearance. Bureaucracy as camouflage. The title of the proposed rule is the TEL, Decennial Census of the Population of Americans, Proposed Residence Criteria and Proposed Regulations for Demographic Questions. That is the language of administrative drift, not democratic robbery. It sounds technical because technical language is how bad actors hide intention inside procedure. The point is not a semantic debate about residence. The point is to rewrite who counts as present. The census has always counted every person living in the country, regardless of status, because a democracy cannot allocate money or representation by pretending some human beings are abstractions. Changing that standard would not just reduce immigrant visibility. It would help strip schools, healthcare, housing, food assistance, roads and child programs from communities where immigrants live. That is the mechanism. The harm is not accidental, and it is not neutral. ICE is the problem. The source makes clear that this machinery already depends on immigration agents taking people into custody while the administration hunts for a way to make them statistically vanish. That is exactly why ICE cannot be treated as a reform project. It is the enforcement arm of a regime that normalizes detention first and erasure second. ICE should be abolished, not improved, not retrained, not oversighted. Abolished. A system that can snatch people, warehouse them, and then help rewrite the official record so they stop existing on paper is not a public safety institution. It is a state violence apparatus with a paperwork department. The real target? The first target is immigrants, but the larger target is democratic reality itself. Once the state can decide that a population does not count for census purposes, it can thin representation, shift funds, and weaken the political weight of entire communities. The source also notes that some red states are already trying to exclude immigrants from their own census counts. That should end the pretense that this is a narrow federal quirk. It is a coordinated attempt to convert demographic power into partisan advantage. The framing in the reporting is useful only because it exposes the tactic. Make exclusion sound administrative, make disenfranchisement sound procedural, and make cruelty look like a residence definition. The pattern. This is the broader pattern. Authoritarian politics rarely announces itself as authoritarian. It arrives as forms, criteria, notifications, and tiles on a website. It relies on people being too exhausted, too desensitized, or too deferential to notice that the state is not merely counting differently. It is trying to decide who gets to exist in the official record at all. That is the real meaning of the census fight, not a technical dispute about demography, but an attempt by the most powerful actors in government to turn living people into missing data. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article, with the automated voice of Clara. Thanks for listening.